Does Hillary Clinton have the physical stamina to be president of the United States?
Well, I think that's a question the American people should answer. I know Donald Trump had a physical on Friday. In the days ahead, he'll be releasing all that information about his health and physical condition, and I think it's very appropriate that our candidates make that information available as they're making a decision about who will be the leader of the free world and hold the highest office in the land.
You know that Mr. Trump on the trail has previously questioned that physical stamina numerous times. It seems like you're not today.
Well, look, today we're talking about someone who is homesick, and we wish her well. We're praying for her swift recovery, want to see her back out on the campaign trail. But I think that when Donald Trump has made reference in the past is to the overall energy that he brings to this campaign. I think the reason why you see that enormous throng in North Carolina tonight and the crowds that are coming out, the American people are responding to broad-shouldered, energetic leadership that they know will make America great again.
Will Donald Trump put his doctor out to answer questions? Will it be a detailed medical release?
Well, I think you can ask the campaign that. I think those decisions are being made even as we speak.
But you're in favor of detailed medical records for both nominees?
Well, sure. I think the American people have a right to know. We're making a choice here about who's going to lead this country during an enormously challenging time. But let me say again, on the specific issue of her illness today, we wish her well. We're praying for her swift recovery. We want to see her back on the campaign trail and look forward to a vigorous campaign.
You just said the American people have the right to know. Do they also have the right to know about what's in Donald Trump's tax returns?
Well, Donald Trump's made it very clear that he's going to provide those tax returns after a routine audit is completed. But your viewers should know that Donald Trump has already, as I have and the other candidates have, fully complied with federal law about financial disclosure.
But you went the additional step of putting out your tax returns just last week.
I did. It was a pretty short read. It didn't take people too long to get through it. But what the law requires is the filling out of these federal financial disclosure forms. More than 100 pages on Donald Trump's financial information is available today. People should know that. And when the routine audit is done, he'll bring forward those tax returns.
You know, it's interesting, though. When he was asked about this on Bill O'Reilly's show, here's what he said about the tax returns.
She has 33,000 emails that she deleted. When is she going to release her emails? She probably knows how to find it. Let her release her emails, and I'll release my tax returns immediately.
So there you go. I mean, it's not the audit. I mean, he said he'll put it out immediately.
Well, but it is the audit. I mean, he's going through a routine audit right now, and against the possibility that there would be some changes. He doesn't want to produce tax returns that aren't completed or need to be amended. But I think what you see there is the art of the deal. I mean, I don't hear anybody, with all due respect, outside the media, talking about Donald Trump's tax returns.
Well,
I hear people ask about 33,000 emails every day of the week all across this country.
Well, let me just put up some polls, and this will be the last thing on this, but there are people concerned about the Quinnipiac poll, should Donald Trump publicly release tax returns? 74% yes. The Fox News poll, is Donald Trump hiding something in his tax returns or not? Yes, 60%. Should presidential candidates release their tax returns? 79% in the IBT-TIPP poll. Those are kind of big numbers, Governor.
Well, those are very big numbers, and that's why Donald Trump is going to release his tax returns after the routine audit is completed. Well, that's yet to be seen when the IRS finishes their work. I mean, I have to tell you, you've seen my tax returns. They didn't take too long to complete. This is a man who has built an extraordinary business of enormous complexity, and but I'm very confident that information will be available to the American people.
Okay, I want to ask you some specific policy questions. For example, on entitlement reform. Donald Trump has been pretty specific that he opposes major entitlement reform. 3 questions. Can the United States reduce our national debt without reforming entitlements?
The thing Donald Trump and I know for sure is whether we're talking about reducing the national debt, which I've spent my entire public career working on fiscal responsibility, or reforming it. None of that's going to happen unless we get this economy growing again. You are never going to meet the obligations that we've made in Social Security and Medicare unless you get this economy firing on all cylinders again. And when you look at a 1% economy that we live in today, and that's 1% rate of growth in the last quarter, but I think 1.8% frankly, over the last 16 years. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who literally have not seen a real increase in their own income, net of inflation, for almost 2 decades. Donald Trump and I know that by reducing marginal income tax rates, lowering business tax rates, repealing Obamacare, rolling back regulations, ending the war on coal, you'll get this economy moving again. You'll get more money in the pocketbooks of hardworking Americans, more resources out here in Washington, D.C. We'll meet the needs of those entitlements, and we'll have the room and the ability to deal with those issues in the long term.
But, Governor, you know that sounds a lot different than where you were. Here's where you were September 26, 2010 on Meet the Press.
For Americans under the age of 40, we absolutely have to begin to reform Medicare and Social Security in ways that will ensure its long-term fiscal solvency.
It just sounds different now. Are you saying that that's not the way to do it now?
Well, no, I'm not saying that in the least. I think before we get to any of that, we've got to have a growing economy again, Brett, so that we can meet the needs in Social Security and Medicare today. And what Donald Trump, I think what you see him doing on a lot of issues is putting first things first. So let's put growth first. On the immigration plan, let's put border security and internal enforcement first. And I think that's the kind of CEO, the kind of president that he's going to be, is let's tackle the real challenges up front, and we'll deal with and resolve these issues in the longer term.
I guess if you listen to the Paul Ryan Republicans, and you were in that kind of group for a long time,
yeah.
They say we're always one election away from solving the big issues. So is it possible to be a limited government conservative if you don't believe now in reforming entitlements, the drivers of U.S. national debt?
Well, who said I didn't believe that?
No, you're not pushing it. The nominee's not pushing it.
Well, I think what you have in the nominee, and a man who's literally drawn the support of tens of millions of Americans, is someone who knows that what the American people want to see today is a stronger America at home and abroad first. And that once we have a growing economy, Brett, once we've rebuilt our military and we're standing tall in the world again, once we've ensured we have a Supreme Court that respects our constitutional liberties and do all the things he's talked about, then we can turn the page and begin to deal with these other issues.
The debt ceiling comes up again in March. You were here during the 2011 showdown, the debt limit fight.
Right.
Can a President Trump go along with hiking the debt limit?
Well, I think working closely with renewed Republican majorities in the House and Senate, we're going to be able to govern with fiscal responsibility. And back in 2011, we worked our way through that in a way that ensured and guaranteed budget cuts. Now, I will tell you that Donald Trump and I are deeply committed to rebuilding our military and ending those automatic cuts in the Department of Defense that are in place today as we rebuild that. But I have no doubt that I'm going to be meeting on Capitol Hill tomorrow with leaders of the House and Senate, and no doubt that we're going to be able, with renewed Republican majorities in the House and Senate, we're going to be able to meet those obligations. And again, I go back to my first answer. A growing economy solves a whole lot of problems. We can meet these obligations. We can avoid going further into red ink that we've seen almost the national debt's almost doubled in the last 7.5 years with a growing American economy.
We hear up there on the Hill that you're going to meet with Senator Ted Cruz. True?
Well, I'm going to meet with all the members of the House Republican Conference, the Senate Policy Committee, members of the Senate, but I'll be meeting individually with Ted and with Senator Mike Lee, with our own Senator Dan Coates, and a great number of others. Should be a busy day.
The convention was a little, rocky. It didn't end too well, it didn't seem, between the nominee and Senator Cruz, and obviously there's a lot of backstory there from the primary. Is this an olive branch?
Well, I think the convention ended very well. I think we rolled out of that convention.
I mean, the relationship between Trump and Cruz.
Party. Well, look, a competitive primary is a rough and tumble business, and I respect all the men and women who went through that process. But I think what you see around the country, and what we're seeing on Capitol Hill is tremendous and growing enthusiasm among Republican leaders across the nation for Donald Trump's vision to make America great again.
Hillary Clinton said that she regretted saying that half of Trump's supporters are in this basket of deplorables. Not good enough for you.
Well, not even close. I mean, it's extraordinary. For her to stand in front of a group of wealthy contributors in New York City at a Barbra Streisand event and to say that that millions of Americans were in a basket of deplorables was just shocking. And I think it shocked the conscience of people all across this country. Look, I've been campaigning over the last month and a half with Donald Trump and for Donald Trump. I meet Trump supporters every single day of the week. These are hardworking Americans. These are factory workers and coal miners. These are business owners and seniors and students and veterans and members of our armed forces. And for her to literally stand in front of that fashionable New York group and say half of his supporters are deplorable, are irredeemable, are not American, is deeply offensive, and her so-called apology was simply a reference to the fact that she supposedly got the math wrong. I mean, the simple fact is she didn't apologize for this. She is still making a broad and sweeping generalization about people across this country, millions of Americans who are drawn to the optimistic and broad-shouldered leadership that Donald Trump is articulating.
I heard you earlier in an interview distance again, you, the Trump campaign, from David Duke.
Yes.
And white nationalist groups. A left-leaning group is out now with an email saying that you didn't call David Duke deplorable.
Donald Trump and I have repeatedly denounced David Duke, and we've said that we don't want his support, and we don't want the support of people who think like David Duke. And yet the media continues to scamper after this. And the question that I got on another network was, do you call him deplorable? But I get it. They wanted me to start using terms that Hillary uses. You've known me a long time. I'm not a name caller. I don't play that game. But we have denounced David Duke repeatedly. We'll continue to do that again. And for Hillary Clinton to literally, and it wasn't just basket of deplorables, but to say that millions of Americans were irredeemable, were not American, and then to call them racist, sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic. I think what you saw there in a prepared speech, it's important your viewers understand that. This wasn't an off-the-cuff remark. This was a statement as part of a prepared speech. This basket of deplorables is a line that she's used at least one other time before.
So was it worse politically than the Mitt Romney 47% comment?
I think her decision to smear millions of Americans whose only hope and desire is to make America great again is the worst statement I have ever heard by a candidate for national office in my lifetime.
A couple things from Twitter. Nick writes in, if you are elected along with Mr. Trump, what specific roles do you see yourself playing in the first 100 days?
Well, that'll all be defined by the new President of the United States, and we'll serve at his direction.
Were you told specifically at the beginning when you signed on what your role was going to be as VP?
Well, we talked about the role, and I think I'm going to say that I think my experience on Capitol Hill, 12 years, where I built strong relationships with men and women in the House and in the Senate. I think my 4 years as governor of Indiana, where I've developed relationships with Republicans and Democrats across the country who are leading our states in governor's office. I think that's played a role. I think my sense is that our new president will be looking to me to help take his vision to make America great again, take those policies to confront radical Islamic terrorism, get this economy moving again, finally deal with and end illegal immigration, do all the things that he's laid out, translate those to policies on Capitol Hill, and I look forward to being a part of it.
Governor, do you have a couple more minutes? Can I hold you over after the break?
You bet.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll finish up the interview with the Republican vice presidential nominee, Governor Mike Pence. We are back with the Republican vice presidential nominee, Governor Mike Pence. Thanks for sticking around. Hillary Clinton has been attacking Donald Trump and you on the issue of Russia and Vladimir Putin. Take a listen.
I think his ignorance about Russia and Putin are dangerous. Send a message that maybe the United States no longer really stands for human rights, for freedom, for human dignity, stands against aggressive behaviors.
How do you respond to that?
Look, when Donald Trump and I said that the small and bullying president of Russia was a stronger leader on the world stage, than this president and Secretary Clinton. That was not an endorsement of Vladimir Putin. That was an indictment of the weak and feckless leadership that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have practiced on the world stage.
But you know the signal it sends as Donald Trump says that, you know, he's a strong leader. He says nice things about me. I'll say nice things about him. You've spoken out about Russia a lot in your past.
I have, and will continue to. And we know, Donald Trump and I know what we're dealing with in Vladimir Putin, former KGB agent, an authoritarian. He's repressed the media in his country and been associated even with violence in his country, the invasion of Ukraine and specifically Crimea. We know what we're dealing with, but what you hear in Donald Trump is a man who is prepared to step onto the world stage as the leader of the free world and engage in diplomacy. What he showed in Mexico City is the ability with President Peña Nieto, someone who he has disagreed with very strongly on some key issues, and they had strong words between them before, the ability to sit down, have a gracious conversation, talk about what they agree on. The very ceasefire that's taking place right now, and we hope and pray that it holds in Syria today, is a result of the fact that despite our differences and different interests in the region, that the United States and Russia can work together. We hope for the good, for the flowing of humanitarian aid. Donald Trump's going to be the kind of president who's going to speak boldly on the world stage. But I think what you hear in him is laying a foundation for the kind of relationship where we can look for the things that we can work on together with Russia, like coming together to hunt down and destroy ISIS.
You speak to Donald Trump every day?
Sometimes twice a day, and campaign with him at least once a week. We've developed a very warm personal relationship. He is a good man, and he'll be a great president of the United States.
Have you seen any change in Trump's thinking on any issue?
I wouldn't say I've seen change in his positions on issues. I think one of the things that appeals to people about Donald Trump is he knows his mind. He's got a clear vision for this country. He's articulated it under the heading of making America great again. But I think what you've seen literally since the speech on radical Islamic terrorism in Youngstown, Ohio, the speech on getting this economy growing again in Detroit, major speeches he's giving across the country, is now he's been laying out in the last 6 weeks from that convention forward the details of what will be involved in making that happen. And I just couldn't be more honored and more proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder with him.
Last thing, there are a lot of stories about questioning the infrastructure of the campaign, the ability to work with the RNC, to have people on the ground knocking on doors. Are you concerned about it as you look at the key battleground states where you all are fighting a pretty organized Democratic machine?
Well, I think what you've got is first two things. We're working very, very closely with the Republican National Committee and confident about our grassroots game. I'll go, any of your viewers that want to help should contact their local GOP and spend some time on the phones and knocking on doors, and we'd be grateful for it. But I think the contrast here is very dramatic, Brad, and that is in Hillary Clinton you've got a campaign with hundreds of millions of dollars with 1,000 employees and vast so-called ground game. In Donald Trump's campaign, you've got a movement of Americans, like you see in North Carolina tonight, literally thousands upon thousands of people who will come out on just a few days' notice. Even when I'm out campaigning on my own, I know I'm a B-list Republican celebrity, but I'll get 500 or 1,000 people to come to an event that just features me, and it's very humbling to me, but it really gives evidence of the fact that people that are signing on for this campaign are signing on for a movement. They've seen 7.5 years that's weakened America's place in the world and stifled America's economy. They know we can be stronger. They know we can be more prosperous, and they're responding to the broad-shouldered, clear-eyed leadership that Donald Trump is offering. So I'm excited about that. In those battleground states, in most of them, we're either tied or even leading now. We're leading in some national polls. There's tremendous momentum in this campaign, but we're going to continue to work our hearts out, elect this good man, and we're going to make America great again.
Governor Pence, we appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you, Brad.
See you down the trail.